Hi guys, welcome to another great show of Inner Masculine Live here with Inner Feminine today. Teresa Kuhn every Friday. Teresa, how you doing?
Good, Ryan. How are you?
I am doing great. We have a show today that I think kind of sums up what everyone's looking for, which is happiness. There is a clip from the YouTube channel, Big Think, a university psychology professor is talking about the nature of happiness. And I watched this video. It's not a super long video. She actually makes some very, very, very good points. But I would say, as is the case with all these cognitive behavioral therapy people, her points are very good. You should do what she says. Absolutely. But I always find there's something that we who focus, Teresa and I, who focus more on subconscious, we have something we can add to this to make it a more complete picture. So what she gives is great, but we can add on top because we take things from a different angle that these psychologists take them. I mean, a related angle, but still definitely different. So we're going to play the clip. And I mean, man, she makes some points. So many people make mistakes on how to be happy, and she's really going to lay it out. So this is a great clip. Before we get into that, you can see in the lower left hand of my screen, innermasculine.com/free-ebook. Go there, put in your email. You immediately get my ebook on how the subconscious mind works and why it keeps you stuck. Anxiety, procrastination, maybe trapped anger, rage, resentment, not feeling good enough. It's going to go through all of those things. It's going to explain, why do you procrastinate? Why do you self-sabotage? Why do you have more anxiety than you feel you should? Why do you just not feel good enough sometimes? It's going to explain it all, how the subconscious mind develops, how our subconscious mind actually affects us as adults, what a subconscious program is. Over 90%, 95% of our behavior is dictated by our subconscious mind. If you want to upgrade your life, you got to upgrade your behavior. Number one thing to do is upgrade your subconscious mind. That's what Teresa and I are doing and educating people on. But first, you have to understand how the subconscious works. So ask yourself, do you know what a subconscious program is? Do you understand how your subconscious mind is affecting you in your daily life and keeping you stuck? If not, boom, the ebook's free. It's a 1-hour read. Just go there, get that. So that is that for today. Now, this clip, I saw this clip just yesterday. Really excellent clip. I think we should just dive into it. It starts with why people are not happy, and then it's going to go into what you can do to be happy, at least surface level stuff, but still really important stuff, honestly. And before we jump in, I'll just say, a lot of people in our society are not happy at all. Would you agree, Teresa? What are your comments, thoughts on the level of happiness in our society today, especially Western culture?
Well, I think it depends how you define happiness, right?
True.
And, happiness in its own feels short-term and elusive. How many are living lives on purpose and are feeling fulfilled?
Yeah.
And so I believe happiness is just, it's like trying to catch a butterfly, but how much of your life is on purpose? How fulfilled are you? Are you able to navigate life from an emotional perspective where you feel like you've got inner control, regardless of what's going on outside? But people, chase happiness, and that's a word that some people understand, and so I think that's the language that's used.
And I don't think humans are meant to go around being like, "Oh, I'm happy," like all the time, 24/7. But I think what it comes down to is, if you sit down and reflect and say, am I happy with my life? Am I happy with how things are going? Am I on the right track? Do I feel fulfilled, or do I feel empty, etc.? You can get more or less a permanent state of happy, where it's like, hey, things aren't perfect, but you know what, man, my life is pretty good, and I feel pretty good about myself. I feel pretty good about where I am, and also the exciting things in front of me. Challenges doesn't mean there's not challenges, doesn't mean stuff won't hit you. Hey, if a loved one passes away, you're going to have grief. You're not going to be, like a Teletubby, and that's happening. But I think we can get to this level of overall happiness with how our life is going, and have, spikes of happiness through the day as good thing happens, among all the other range of emotions that we have. So let's go ahead and play the clip, and let me bring it up. And if you want to pause any of it and comment, just let me know, Teresa. Otherwise, we'll just keep playing it.
Will do.
All right. Here we go.
You might assume that we are creatures that are built to be happy. But the sad thing is that we're really not wired for happiness. Natural selection honestly doesn't care how we feel. It really just wants us to survive and reproduce. And that doesn't necessarily involve being happier. People are less happy than they ever have been. In the United States, around 40% of college students report being too depressed to function most days.
Wow. 40% of college students too depressed to function. Something's wrong, guys.
We see the same kind of thing in older individuals. We're doing something wrong. We have all these misconceptions when it comes to the simple things we could all be doing to feel better. I'm Lori Santos. I'm a professor of psychology at Yale University and host of the Happiness Lab podcast. I study the science of happiness. In order to feel happier, we really need to come to terms with the fact that our mind is kind of lying to us. We experience what psychologists like Dan Gilbert and Tim Wilson have called miswanting. Miswanting is the act of trying to go for certain things that we assume are going to make us feel happy, but then they don't make us as happy as we think. Because there are these annoying features of the mind that cause us to get happiness wrong. And one of the biggest annoying features of the mind is the fact that we all have these intuitions about the kinds of things we should be doing to feel better. But the research shows that many of those intuitions are just incorrect. Take, for example, money. So many of us think that if we just got more money, we'd feel happier. But if you have enough money to put food on the table and a roof over your head, more money isn't going to make you happier. The same is true for so many things. Getting a promotion, material possessions, getting married. We kind of get the Rolling Stones idea wrong. We think the problem is that we can't always get what we want. The problem is that if we got what we wanted, we probably still wouldn't be happy because we want the wrong things. A second annoying feature of the mind is the fact that we tend to not think in objective terms. We tend to compare all outcomes in life.
What's that?
Pause it right there.
Okay.
I've got a couple comments on the money thing.
Yep.
Money in and of itself, I've worked with money for over 35 years. Money in and of itself does not make someone happy. But I will tell you, where they talk about anything above, basic needs, shelter, etc. I call BS on that.
Okay.
And the reason I call BS on that is money can help solve a lot of problems.
It can. I agree.
And my ability to solve problems does contribute to my sense of well-being.
True. I think having $500,000 in the bank to feel more financially secure helps.
Tremendously.
Or
so
100,000.
Well, that number is subjective, right? Some
is.
people $500,000 would be amazing. For other people, 5 million. Other people, 50 million. So that really depends. But I think the ability to feel like you've got a sense of control over your life, and if something goes wrong, you've got the resources to take care of most problems, is tremendous in terms of feeling like well-being. So I think that's really, really, really important.
And some people have tons of money and still don't have control over their lives. Maybe
and
their
so
money controls their lives.
And don't know how to solve problems. I think problem solving is something that's not taught in school, and most parents aren't teaching their kids, right?
Yep.
So the ability to solve problems raises someone's esteem in terms of navigating the world. Does that lead to happiness? Not necessarily, but it leads to a sense of well-being. I can navigate what happens in my life, especially when I've got resources, especially when I've got money.
And well-being and contentment, that's something that is, I guess I'm not going to say it's 100% permanent all the time, but you can have kind of this persistent feeling of, hey, shit just hit me, but I'll get through it. I'm cool.
Exactly. So that's different from happiness, chasing happiness. It's I believe the objective in life, or one of the objectives I should say, is feeling like I've got enough resources emotionally, financially, physically to navigate life. And I can be content. Will I have feelings of joy and happiness? Absolutely. Will I have grief and sadness?
And sometimes you'll be pissed off too.
Anger,
You have the whole range.
like you said, the range of emotions, which I use that all the time, right?
You just won't be disproportionately pissed off or disproportionately sad when it doesn't serve you.
There are people who are stuck in anger. There are people that are stuck in grief. They're stuck in depression. Those are stuck emotions, and that limits the sense of control and contentment that they have in their life.
Yeah. Now, I want to mention a huge thing this lady misses. She actually brings up a very, very important point about wanting, but she only gives you half of what you need to know. What she says is so many people say they want things thinking it'll make them happy, and it doesn't. Here is the number one thing that makes people want the wrong things. You want to take a stab at it? Or you want me to just go?
Social media.
That is true, but it's surface level. Subconscious trauma. Because if you have subconscious trauma, your brain is going to do things to try and mitigate the pain tied to that trauma, which is going to make you want the wrong thing. So, for example, I'm not good enough. And your brain is like, this is a very painful emotion, and it massively affects people's behavior in an adverse way in modern society. So people are like, I'm not good enough. Well, if I get a great body, a great mate, girlfriend, make $500,000 a year or whatever,
Right.
Become famous, become rich, then I'll be good enough. And this is why this is not the only reason, but is by far the number one reason people want the wrong things, because they think if I get all this stuff, then I'm going to feel good enough. Then I'm going to feel worthy of love. Then I'm going to be happy, successful. My life's so great. They don't understand that this is a subconscious program, and it's not 100% across the board, but by and large, our subconscious programs, 75% developed by age 8, 95% developed by age 14, and then they are stuck down in our subconscious. And generally speaking, outside influence does not change the program. Now, over a long period of time, they can partially change the programs to a limited degree, but unless you use specialized techniques, those programs are still there. And outside success, I mean, I had a friend who 4.5 months into the year called me. I was talking to him. He said, I made $700,000 so far this year in the middle of May. And I said, he never made that much money. I've never made that much money in a year. I just said, wow, that's amazing. Holy cow, you're doing so great. And I was shocked. And I'm like, how do you feel? You must feel amazing. He says, I feel not good enough because my friends made 1.2 million already. And he felt terrible. And it's just like, that's toxic shame. Outside influence, you can feel temporarily good when you get what you want. But if you have toxic shame, it's not going to fix the program. So I tell people, go after what you want. But what I say is get in you the belief you are enough just as you are. You have massive value just as you are. And then go after what you want. Now, once you have this good core, maybe you are going after the wrong thing. Well, you're going to learn and grow. You're going to learn, oh, this isn't what I really want. But your base is so much better once you realize you're good enough just as you are, and you have that self-love, self-belief, self-approval. A lot of this stuff people chase for their entire lives and never works. You're going to be much better calibrated. I'm not saying going after what you want is going to be perfect. You're going to learn and grow. You're going to, oh, I don't want that. Oh, I really do want this. It's not the base of happiness. It's still cool to go after what you want. But people wanting things is by far more than anything else, subconscious trauma causing that, and their brains trying to make them, feel better, be good enough, whatever. So would you agree with that, or would you
Totally.
Or what do you think?
1,000%. And when you heal that toxic shame, then you realize you're not competing with anybody else.
Because you're already good enough.
Because you're already good enough.
You don't need to be better than someone to be good enough. You don't need to get that, super attractive husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend to be good enough. You just freaking are.
Right. Because when you're getting to, like, when you think, if I make $1 million a year, I'll feel good enough. Or when I've got the right mate, I'll feel good enough, or whatever. When it's all external, you might get that $1 million a year, but you can't sustain it.
Just like my friend. Well, you
really
can't
don't
sustain it, or even if you you're not going to sustain the happiness you get from it.
You're not going to sustain the happiness you get from it. And
she's going to talk about that, I think she talks about something called hedonics and a bunch of other stuff. She's going to lay this all out, but 100% true. 100% true.
I know a lot of really brilliant people that have all sorts of degrees and keep getting degrees and certifications and all sorts of stuff because they don't feel like they're good enough. That was me. I graduated from law school in 2.5 years, licensed in 3 states, and I was going to go for a master's in taxation. Because I can tell you, I did not feel good enough with all my accomplishments up to that point. I was like, I need something else. I need something else. I was never going to satisfy that hole that I had in my soul that I was not good enough. Never with more degrees and more accomplishments. It was never going to happen outside of me.
Now, you and I have both had these holes in our soul. I used to have very severe depression. At one point, I was diagnosed extreme depression. Mild mania is extreme depression, clinical diagnosis. It's the worst diagnosis you can have, by the way. I filled that hole. You filled the hole. How'd you do it?
It's an inside job. I
work on your inner beliefs, feelings, get that emotional trauma out. Optimize your subconscious. Get these beliefs in your core. I am enough just as I am. I have massive value just as I am. I can't do anything to not have this value. If I fail, it doesn't affect my value. It's just learning, growing. We might as go after what we want because it's still fun and cool, but we don't need it to be good enough. We already are.
And it
changes everything. Changes everything.
It does.
From experience, we are telling you from experience. Former miserable souls now doing pretty damn good. We're telling you guys, we know. Sorry, I got a little crazy there. Go ahead.
And it's work. It's hard work. It going inside
takes courage.
It takes a lot of courage, and it's the final frontier, and it's the most rewarding work ever, because what happens when you get to that state, and I'm not saying that I've reached nirvana. I'm always pushing myself, and I'm always going deeper, and I'm always trying to level up.
Because we like to learn and grow. That's kind of an adventure in and of itself.
Exactly. Really and I'll plateau, and I'll be like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to go anymore. And then I start getting restless and know that there's more for me. But when you reach that point where you feel like you've got a sense of control inside, then it's not about what can I get? How can I improve my life more? It's about how can I serve others? How can I help others achieve X?
That's why we're doing this show right now.
This is your life mission.
Yeah, this is my life mission.
You figured out a way to help your soul. And all I've heard for the last 10 years is you want to impact the world with what you've learned.
Yeah, and you do too.
How much joy do you get from that? It is another level that I never even thought was possible. Me getting joy from seeing other people develop and reach.
And the connections you get with people from that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And let me tell you, when someone you haven't talked to in 2 years calls you up and tells you how their life has completely changed from how you help them, which has happened to me dozens and dozens and dozens of times.
Your testimonials are amazing.
Freaking crazy. It's a hell of an adventure. And it's cool. So this lady, she's a smart lady in the clip. She's going to touch on several things. She never touches on toxic shame or trauma and why that makes you miswant, but there's a lot of other really good things he touches on. And I finished my self-hypnosis course. If any of you guys want it, you can, message me, but right now I'm mostly focusing on offering it to existing clients. But in my self-hypnosis course, I talk about most of the things that she talks about, because it's important to have good friends too. It's important to actively exercise gratitude. And she also this lady talks about getting physically fit. It's all important. Being healthy is important, all of that. But man, if you feel you're not good enough, you can get healthy, you can get friends, you can get all these things and success and money and all that and still not be good enough. Still not feel good enough.
I'll tell you, when you don't feel it, the whole world can tell you how amazing you are, how gorgeous you are, how fit you like.
That's like Michael Jackson, right? Or Marilyn Monroe. Everyone loved Marilyn Monroe. Self-deleted.
When she looked at herself in the mirror, I'm going to assume all she had was self-loathing. All she saw were what she felt were her flaws.
Yeah.
And the whole world thought she was amazing and gorgeous, and she made a living off of her looks. It still wasn't good enough.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. Very well said. And we'll keep going.
To something else. This is what's known as setting a reference point. We're constantly comparing what we have to other people.
That's like my friend, my other friend's making more. That's why I'm miserable.
Compare our
and made $700,000 in 4.5 months.
salaries, compare our looks, compare how happy our marriage is, even compare how much sex we're getting. And that's a problem because it
by the way, I then fixed his toxic shame and he's much happier now. So it wasn't the money, it was going inside, and that's what did it for him.
means we could be doing objectively.
What's that?
It's all an inside job.
100%. That's what we've learned.
Quite well in life. But as long as there's somebody out there who's doing better than us, we're going to feel bad. Another annoying feature of the mind is that our minds tend to get used to stuff. When you first have an experience, it's glorious. But over time, you kind of get used to it. This is what researchers call hedonic adaptation. It means that things that initially impact our happiness a lot, they stop having the same impact over time. There's an additional problem with hedonic adaptation, which is that we don't really know that it's happening. And that leads to an additional bias that's known as the impact bias. We assume that if something good happens, it's going to impact our happiness a lot and for a really long period of time. But the evidence suggests it doesn't. We're biased about the particular impact that any event might have on our happiness. That's the impact bias. When we think about the annoying features of the mind, the bad news is that those mistakes seem to be built in. Everyone's walking around with minds that will inevitably miswant. The real way to thwart our biases is to behave differently. There's a whole set of practices I like to call rewirements. All of us can engage with rewiring our own habits in order to change our behaviors and feel better.
This is half the equation at most, but it is useful. We'll keep going. We'll comment on that shortly.
When we think about the behaviors that we need to change as part of our rewirements, there's one big one that comes up initially: social connection. Every available study of happy people suggests that happy people are more social. They physically spend time around other people, and they tend to really prioritize time with their friends and family members.
Narcissists and sociopaths can do this too. It's maladaptive, but I got to play devil's advocate on some of this. Overall, this is very true, though.
Lack of social connection really comes from the fact that we have this strong intuition that it kind of doesn't matter. There's lots of work by Nick Epley for a bias that's known as undersociality. You just systematically misestimate how good social connection will feel. Instead of scrolling through social media, use your phone to actually be a phone and call someone that you care about. These simple acts of connecting in real life, ideally, but especially in real time, can significantly improve well-being. Another behavior that we know really affects our happiness is doing nice things for other people, trying to become a little bit more other-oriented. This is a spot.
Again, by itself, this is good, but for some people, it's not. People with codependency constantly serve others and are constantly miserable. But for most people, this is helpful. You should do this.
Where we have seriously incorrect intuitions. We often think that self-care is the path to happiness. But the evidence really suggests that happy people are much more other-oriented. They're donating more money to charity. They're spending their time volunteering for others. They give more compliments. Another way that we can rewire our happiness is to change our thought patterns. Do we have a mindset of paying attention to all the negative things, all the hassles in life, or do we have a mindset that focuses more on the blessings? Lots of evidence suggests that happy people focus on the blessings. if you tend not to do that naturally, you can change that thought pattern. One fantastic way to do this is simply to just write down 3 to 5 things you're grateful for every night. And this practice can improve your well-being in as little as 2 weeks. Another thought pattern that we can engage to feel happier is paying attention to the good stuff in life. One of the reasons our good circumstances don't necessarily lead to happiness is we tend not to notice them. We'll buy a delicious latte that we should be paying attention to and savoring and really enjoying, but we just kind of chug it while we're checking our email. The act of savoring is moving towards paying attention to the good things in life a little bit more. A final way we can rewire our behavior is to make changes in our body. We often forget that bodies are connected to minds, but they really are. And that means that a really quick way to change how we're feeling emotionally is simply moving our body a little bit more. Exercise is intricately connected to our mental health. And it's important to note that this isn't like running a marathon. This is simply just getting your body to move around a little bit more. Even as much as like 20 minutes a day can really improve your well-being. These so-called rewirements, they're really useful for moving from not feeling so good at the time to flourishing a little bit more. This is not necessarily the tools that you might use if you're facing a really serious mental disorder. Sometimes people think like, oh, I'm suicidally ideating, I should do a gratitude list or so. It's like, no. That's an acute emergency, and you should really get a special, more acute kind of care. You should see a psychotherapist.
Now, very true what she's saying here. However, I will add that really for 90% of people, this is very helpful, but there's still some other stuff you need to do, which we're going to talk about. Any comments thus far, Teresa, or just keep going?
Keep going.
Okay.
Rewirements are just yet another tool in the toolkit that we can all use to be improving our own well-being. We're going to have moments of anger. We're going to have moments of sadness. We're going to have moments of fear or frustration or overwhelm. That's part of being human. Our negative emotions are signals that are telling us something really important. Our sadness is there to tell us, hey, you're missing something in life. You might need to make changes. You might need to reach out to a friend. Negative emotions are normative in certain circumstances, so we shouldn't try to wish them away. You just need to be able to regulate them in positive ways. The key, though, is that you have to put these strategies into practice. You can't just learn about them. It turns out that knowing from a cognitive science perspective, it's not half the battle. The real work is putting the things you learn into practice. When we understand the right things to do and put those things into practice, we really can significantly change our levels of happiness.
Okay, let's go back to this list here. I think this is a great list. I think everyone should take advantage of what this lady's saying here.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Yeah, go. And I played a little devil's advocate, so go for it as well.
So the rewirements, absolutely. Should you be?
I don't think this is a complete list, but
it's not even complete though. It's
why.
You before this, right? If you're stuck in the swamp of sadness, if you're stuck in toxic shame, if you're stuck in,
this is not going to fix it.
Getting dopamine hits with pornography or whatever, you're not going to be able to do any of this from a healthy perspective.
You can do it, but yeah, you're still going to struggle. It's not going to fix it.
I know a lot of toxic people who are stuck in gratitude, because it's the hip thing to be saying all the time. Oh, I'm so grateful for, for whatever. And there's no real depth in their gratitude. You can't really savor life when you're stuck in the swamp of sadness, right? All you can think about is how crappy you feel. How can you savor anything? Or like they showed, the guy watching his drinking the latte, but stuck on email because he's looking for the dopamine hit or working or whatever.
Yeah.
So exercise is super healthy, and a lot of people are stuck in not being able to exercise because they feel like crap, physically, emotionally. Right.
Yeah.
And I love the concept of swamp of sadness, because to me, that's such a beautiful visual of when you're so depressed. It's like you're in a quicksand of sadness. And how the hell do you pull yourself up and out of that without some deep emotion?
Yeah. And she says something very important. She says your sadness, our emotions tell us things. And what I tell my clients is every emotion has a message attached to it. What is that message? Because we need to connect to that in order to clear subconscious trauma. It's essential. It's 100% essential. And I'll play devil's advocate too, because number one, people should do this. It's gonna help. It's not complete for many people. You need way more than this for some people. You gotta heal bad subconscious programs, beliefs, etc. I also say, hey, narcissists are all about social connection. They really are. They'll crumble without social connection, but it's still very maladaptive. Codependents are all about other orientedness, but still very maladaptive. Now, I do think gratitude everyone should have and helps. Don't quite have the experience with you. You're talking about people using gratitude maladaptively. I'm not.
Oh, people are just using it all the time. They just throw it out as a buzzword, right?
They're not sincere with it. Yeah.
All the time. And I don't mean that they don't want to be sincere about it, but they're not truly feeling gratitude because they've got so much other crap. That's
yeah.
And I do want to say a couple things about social connection, other orientedness. For some people, their pattern when they were growing up, a coping mechanism, go inside and to abandon themselves and to isolate.
Okay.
That person is not going to be able to make social connections when they only feel safe when they are isolated, because
some people are not able to do this until they fix their trauma. And
the other orientedness, until they fix their trauma, they are completely codependent. So it's all about being nice and people pleasing, which perpetuates their feeling of isolation and feeling bad because they're being used by other people, or they have relationships that are not elevating them or helping them.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the people they're helping often resent them because there's some covert contracts in place. Do you know what I mean by that?
Absolutely.
Because these codependents are like, I'm going to do things to be nice to you and serve you, and I want something in return. And that so the person who's being served is like, listen, I did not agree to this obligation. Get the hell out of my face. Just because you're nice to me doesn't mean I owe you shit. Why are you now expecting things from me? And it's true. It's like, listen, that other person, if you're serving them, you're giving them a gift. They're, having strings attached to it. They're pissed off that there's strings attached because they didn't even ask for the gift,
So the underlying patterns on all of these rewirements are going to come out until you do the work.
Yeah, you got to fix your core. These are all good things, but they can be used maladaptively, or you're not able to use them if your core subconscious is messed up.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what the lady meant. She does say, if you have serious mental health illnesses, you got to do more. But honestly, there's a lot of people who don't think they have mental health illnesses.
Exactly. How many of us are walking around thinking I'm mentally ill? Like I've got a mental illness. Look, I have all due respect for Lori Santos and what the information she's putting out. And you can only put so much information out in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So is she going to get into all this stuff? No. But we have the opportunity to use her stuff to create talking points. And so I'm not saying Lori doesn't have a legitimate fix. I'm just saying,
I actually think it's a really great video overall.
It's
I
awesome.
think there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in here, but you need more.
And a lot of opportunity for us to dig deeper.
Yeah,
right? If you're out there getting social connections and saying I'm still feeling depressed, of course, if you haven't healed your patterns that are causing you to feel depressed for whatever reason.
Yeah, my only real criticism of this video, which way more positives than negatives here, just FYI, great, fantastic video. But my only criticism is she kind of makes it sound like, well, if you have a mental health illness, then you need to do more. And she should have said, really, 95% of people out there need to do more.
It feels...
You don't have to be a schizophrenic to need more on top of this. Really 95% need the other stuff we're talking about. Go ahead.
I'm going to say something. It'll probably get me in trouble, but who cares? It sounds NPR-ish.
You can move. You can flee to Mexico with me, so go for it.
It feels NPR-ish, right?
Yeah.
NPR, how they have, they set up their little, programs, right? Very NPR, you just do, it just feels that way because she's an academic, right? And that's the whole NPR flavor.
Yeah.
the acoustics and the sounds and the information, how they present it, very NPR-ish.
Yeah.
And
Now,
I think it's great.
everyone watching this should take a stab at integrating these 5 things into their life, because it will help, bare minimum, to a degree. For some people,
and
it'll
when
help
you
massively.
notice that you need more, then you know, oh, dang, I need to dig deeper.
Yeah, fix your inner world in addition to this. So I was talking about my self-hypnosis program. It really has a lot more than just self-hypnosis in it. I talk about, actually, I have a gratitude meditation, a meditation that starts with gratitude. Talk about exercise, find your mentor, find a tribe. So I understand these things are not, it's not just work on your inner world. It definitely work on your inner world. I would say that's most important, because when you work on your inner world, you naturally start to adopt some of these things. Have you noticed that, Teresa, that when you fix your inner world, maybe you just naturally felt like, I naturally felt more grateful after. I remember I walked into this apartment that was thoroughly average apartment that I moved into. And after I'd been doing a lot of self work, and I was grateful for the refrigerator. I was grateful for the countertop. I was grateful for my toothbrush, for the bed. I'm like, man, 200 years ago, we didn't have lights. We didn't have internet. We didn't have 500 channels I can stream, and I was just grateful. It's kind of when you fix your inner world, a lot of this is natural. I started fixing my inner world, and I started just cleaning my place more. Started feeling better. So the resistance to reaching out to others was gone, and it was cool. It's like, hey, let's go out and have fun, man. You start doing this stuff naturally when you fix your inner world, but you still want to have, you still want to be aware of this and make some conscious effort as well. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
I go on rants.
I just commented how neat, when you have a Zoom and people could see like your space, it is immaculate, right? And I believe a lot of people's outer world in terms of the aesthetics and their organization, et cetera, is a direct reflection of the mess that they've got inside. When they clean up their mess, their outside world cleans up.
I have clients come to me who do hoarding, and we fix their inner world, and they just start throwing everything away.
I can tell you, I used to hang on to cards from high school. Somebody said a nice thing to me in a card. Oh my gosh, I kept it because it was it made me feel like, oh, this person, thought something nice for me. I need to keep it because I couldn't generate that myself. All of those cards, all that stuff is gone.
Nice. Perfect.
It's just,
awesome.
It's just how it goes. But
so I think to sum up, I can sum up, and then anything you want to add is don't expect to never be sad, never have grief. We have some comments here we're going to get to as well. Hey, John MLD's on the show. Welcome. Modern Life Dating was on his show last night. P-Dubs, I think P-Dub watches every show. Same thing, Jay Lee. Jorge Diaz, my Mexican friend helping me out here in Mexico. Brother from another mother, Brent Caldwell, who also is a son.
today.
Yeah, we got all our friends here. El Chino, always good catching. Go ahead.
No, I'm just commenting on the comments. We had everybody show up today, and on that note, I've got to fly. You can keep on if you want to wrap it up, but I've got an appointment right now that I've got to run.
Yeah, I saw the clock. You got to go. So thank you, Inner Feminine, and I will just any final thoughts before you go.
Now, I am truly grateful.
You're grateful and you're savoring this moment, and you got to go exercise and reach out.
I'm truly grateful for this opportunity with you on Friday. With you.
Hey, I'm grateful too. All right, rock and roll. We'll see you later.
I do mean it. I'm saying it laughing because it's just so funny, right?
Good times. Yeah. All right. Hey, we got to touch base before next Friday, by the way. So, all right, I'll let you go.
All right.
All right. So we got our crowd here. Just gotta acknowledge everyone. Haven't acknowledged Matt Dubia yet. Matt, thank you, sir. What's up, Matt? Yeah, Jorge, now in Monterey, was hanging out with me in Mexico City. Now he's in Monterey, but we're going to Costa Rica in 2 weeks, so 2.5 weeks, so it's all good. Gonna have a little adventure there. Yeah, so I think you guys should watch this video. All those 5 points she made, you should do it. But if you feel, here's the 5 subconscious traumas. You feel not good enough in some way, maybe inadequate, not who you should be. You're not successful enough. You don't make enough. I have people come to me making 100,000 a year, and they're like, I need to make more. And it's like, well, it's fun to make more. It's great to make more, but do you understand you're in the top, probably about the top 10% of income earners, more or less. And some of these people come to me and they're like, I'm 28 years old. I'm making 100 grand and I'm disappointed in my life. And it's like, listen, for 28, you're top 4% or so. I mean, you're doing great. I have people coming to me, they're making 60,000 a year and they're in their 20s. And it's like, listen, for in your 20s, 60,000 a year is great, So if you feel not good enough, worthless, unlovable, it can be mild, it can be huge. If you feel you don't belong or fit in, that's trauma number 2. You're too different from others. You're lonely. You're an outcast. Well, it can be mild. It can be big. Maybe you're just a little socially awkward. You're in a crowd. You're with your friends and you don't feel fully connected to them. Number 3, you can't get what you want. You feel inadequate. Maybe you're not allowed. You feel you're not allowed or you're not meant to get what you want. You're not worthy of it. You don't deserve it. Maybe you have trapped anger, resentment. You're pissed off all the time at yourself, at others, your parents from your childhood, bullies, whatever, or just the world in general. The world isn't fair. Number 5, you don't feel safe. These are the underlying subconscious traumas we are talking about. Feeling not safe. Hey, I feel I'm going to lose my job and then I'll be homeless. I just feel I have dread. Something's going to happen. The world's going to fall apart. Or, hey, I'm out in public. I feel unsafe. Someone's going to attack me. Anytime I get in a car, I feel I'm going to get in a wreck. So if you feel any of those 5, especially toxic shame, that's the biggest one. Doing these 5 outward things help, but you got to fix your core. And what we do, hypnosis, self-hypnosis, guided meditations, etc., is what fixes it. There's other ways to fix it too. Psychedelics can help. Be careful. Ketamine is legal. It's addictive. People getting addicted to ketamine, or other psychedelics. You can have a bad trip. I have a friend who's doing a lot of psychedelics to up level, and he had a psychotic break. It happens. So be careful, but they can be very useful. EMDR can be very helpful for resolving trauma. I think overall, hypnosis, self-hypnosis is the best way to go. But anyone does a session with me, I'm going to say, let's work on your self-talk. I have a video course now. It talks about, hey, proper nutrition, proper exercise, get a mentor, get a tribe, a group who is on the same level as you. So all these, I have a gratitude meditation, starts with gratitude. So all these things this lady's talking about is helpful. But man, if you got trauma, subconscious trauma, or just let's say suboptimal or subconscious programs that don't serve you, guess what? More than 90% of people got this. Okay. Fix that and do all this other stuff. And then you're just going to live an amazing life. And you still got to do the work. But man, if you do the work to go inward and fix your world, trust me, everything else is just going to fall in place. So that's what we had for today. Hey guys, use this stuff. This is very helpful stuff. What this lady said, very helpful stuff. Do everything else too. And, onward and upward. Listen, once you get the knowledge, you can unlock your potential. So here's some knowledge. Use it, unlock your potential, and then do the other stuff we're recommending. Get my ebook. You want to up level. I do a session or whatever, self-hypnosis, whatever. It'll massively up level you. And once you get the knowledge and then start using it and start up leveling. Hey, Tim, how's it going? Tim Costello, another close friend, became a hypnotherapist, mindset coach. And he is helping people massively. He had a guy came to him, spent $50,000 on other self-improvement stuff. None of it helped. One session with Tim, and the guy's like, oh my goodness, my life is different now. One session. That's why I had a very high paying job, gone, doing this now, because this shit is nuclear powered. It works better than anything else I know. You can go on my video section of my YouTube channel. I cut down a lot of my testimonials were half an hour interviews or up to an hour or 20 minutes, whatever, 15. They're cut down to 8 minutes. There's like 18 up now. I got more. I got another 10 audio that I could put on. So you want to see the proof? Go watch the proof. But once you get the knowledge and then apply it, you're going to learn something that I learned when I found this knowledge and then used it. You're going to learn that you have more power than you knew. That's our show. Thanks.